So you trying to tell me it's a bunch of Bill Nye the Science Guy looking motherfuckers underneath me right now, experimenting on black folk, cloning niggas that look like you so they can control our minds?
I had a nightmare that the shit happened. So yeah, it happened. I ain't got no crackers or nothing like you got pots and pans. Your grandma ain't cooked nothing. I'm starving.
Yeah, shut up.
I say we act like a turkey, stick our head in his hand, and leave this shit alone, act like it didn't happen.
Like an ostrich, you stupid motherfucker. You know, I don't know how I let you
Like I
drag
tell you,
me into this shit.
Hey,
That's
you, girl.
Shit.
Oh, shit, that is you.
Man, I've been waiting for this movie ever since it was announced last year. I can see why they were hesitant to put out this movie, but I will get more to that in a bit. Let's talk about They Clone Tyrone.
That was pretty good, but it's my turn now.
They Clone Tyrone is an American sci-fi comedy mystery film starring Jamie Foxx, John Boyega, and Teyonah Parris. The movie premiered on Netflix July 21st, 2023. Filming took place in Atlanta, Georgia from November 2020 to April 2021. This is not a spoiler, but once they mentioned Mount Zion, I already knew that they filmed this movie in Atlanta. I recognized Metropolitan Parkway, formerly known as Stewart Ave, formerly known as the Holstro, the moment it was shown in the film in one of those scenes. The movie follows the unlikely trio of Fontaine, Yo-Yo, and Slick Charles as they uncover government secrets that will change their lives forever. Heavy spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the movie yet, so leave now and come back later once you see the movie. So right now, let's get into the story of They Clone Tyrone. We begin with a drug dealer by the name of Fontaine as he breaks the leg of the competition via his car.
Man, you hit my car, bro.
You broke my motherfucking leg.
He lives in a neighborhood called the Glen and is a little worse for wear. Dudes selling drugs, bums hanging outside a store, black folks eating fried chicken, hoes turning tricks, etc. Fontaine was looking for one of his customers, Slick Charles, a pimp that's been ducking and dodging Fontaine to pay up his money for the drugs that he's been given. However, he wasn't hard to find when you know a nosy hoe that may or may not know where he is, but Fontaine didn't have to do much to get her to talk.
Get a couple dollars so I can get back to college.
We are introduced to Slick Charles and his sex worker Yo-Yo as they have one of their usual arguments.
Damn it! Who drank all the motherfucking orange juice? Citrus?
Ooh, fuck you and fuck your fucking orange juice. Pulls up in a G-Wagon and my spidey senses, oh, they tangling and shit, cause I'm like, this nigga, he got to be 12 or he on some Hannibal shit. But you know, I get my black ass in the car anyway. Then the nigga had the nerve to pull out a razor blade and cut his dick with it. And they gonna look at me like I'm supposed to touch the nasty shit. The fuck I look like?
You look like what you is. You's a hoe.
You know, this shit, I ain't got to deal with none of this shit. You ain't nothing but a habitual line skipping, Jedi mind tricking motherfucker, I ain't got to deal with it.
You gonna deal with it.
You know what?
Yo-Yo says she wanted to retire and she wants a fresh start by going to Memphis. She runs into Fontaine and has a brief interaction as she leaves.
Hello, room 107.
Fontaine gives Slick an ultimatum of sorts.
We can settle up another way if you want.
You think I'm scared of you, nigga?
Fontaine takes the money and heads out, but remember that dude that Fontaine ran over earlier? Well, that dude was working for Fontaine's rival dealer, Isaac. Anyway, they pulled him from Fontaine and he tried to get out and engage in a firefight but was gunned down. Fontaine wakes up the next morning and goes on about his regular day. While at the corner store, he sees a man from afar, wounded, and then an unmarked truck grabbed the man and drove away. That night, Fontaine goes to Slick for more money.
I think we got more pressing issues to talk about.
And what's that?
They shot your ass.
Nigga, where the money at?
Do you not remember getting lit the fuck up?
Fontaine has no recollection on what went down the night before. For Slick to prove that he was telling the truth, they both head out and find Yo-Yo as she still hasn't left yet.
I can't say all of that. You know your girl gotta know what's going on in these streets. So yeah, I doubled back after a cool little minute. I think I saw the perpetrators leaving.
See, I told you. Well, and?
Yeah, I recognized the whip because I do house calls over on Second. I started my own little business, and sometimes I see.
The three went to find the unmarked truck and trace it to a trap house. As they look around, Yo-Yo and Slick voice their concerns.
X-Files shit.
Fontaine, this ain't no tipping. Ain't nothing tipped about this. Fuck, I dropped my ring.
However, Fonte finds an elevator leading to a lab. As Fonte looks around, Slick and Yo-Yo snore of what they think is cocaine. They start to laugh uncontrollably and kill the guy that was on duty. Fontaine looks in horror as he sees a man on the table that looks just like him, deducing the fact that he was cloned. They leave the lab and hide out at Yo-Yo's grandmother's house. However, the next morning, Fontaine leaves ahead with his friends, but everything was cleaned out, frustrating Fontaine even more. The three go to a chicken restaurant and they start to eat. The three start in the lab uncontrollably. Slick noticed something was off.
It's a goddamn chicken right there. I thought it was cocaine. I took some of it. It wasn't cocaine. I started laughing. You break some, I shoot a nigga. Now we here. We eat this chicken. We all laughing. It's in fucking chicken.
The chicken!
The goddamn chicken again. Jesus Christ, this is the second time in history of cinema that fried chicken has been used to control us. More on this later. Yo-Yo uses her skills to investigate to come to find out that the entire Glen is under surveillance. They later found out that other things like perms and grape drink
have grape drink. It's not the same formula that you get. You might have one of your black friends over, Todd. Would you care for a glass of grape juice? What the is juice? I want some grape drink, baby.
were controlling everyone. As they obtained a key card for one of the vans they were tailing, they waited until the church service was over and used the key card to find another elevator down to a secret lab. They find evidence that the government is running countless experiments on black people. Fontaine and Slick find clothes on themselves, prompted the three to leave, and came up to a strip club. One of the DJs was a secret op and used the music to chase the trio. The trio escaped the strip club but was stopped by a mysterious man named Nixon. Gee, I wonder why they gave him that name. Also, Nixon is accompanied by a bodyguard named Chester that is another clone of Fontaine. Nixon reveals that Fontaine and Slick are clones. Nixon reveals that him and other scientists conduct experiments on black communities to make America great again.
If you don't get that bullshit out of my face, bitch.
Nixon is giving them a choice to either die or drop the whole thing and go on with their lives. However, Fontaine tried to kill Nixon but was stopped by trigger words from Nixon, giving him complete control over the Glen. Nixon lets them go with a warning to leave things alone or he'll use the trick words again. The next day, Fontaine falls into depression and wants nothing more to do with the investigation. Yo-Yo, however, wants to continue.
Bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's your fucking home.
Who gives a fuck?
Later, Fontaine finds out that his mother, that hasn't been seen at all since the movie started, was actually a recording. So Fontaine never seen his mom come out the room like at all, not even to take a bath, cook, clean, etc. Like, what would have happened if he had went to the room beforehand, and what would have happened to him? Either way, they would have cut their losses with Fontaine, or you know what? More on this later. Yo-Yo tries to blow the whistle on everything on her own, but she was kidnapped. Fontaine and Slick get wind of Yo-Yo's abduction. Slick comes up with a plan, but Fontaine wasn't gonna like it. So the two orchestrated an act to make it look like things were normal, to deceive Nixon by having Isaac subsequently kill Fontaine to sneak in to save Yo-Yo undetected. Slick gathered Isaac and other people of the Glen and stormed the lab when Fontaine managed to let everyone in from his end. Slick rescues Yo-Yo and they go to save and free the other clones. Fontaine fights Chester, but due to his injuries, he was no match for him. Fontaine was brought to a room and the person that created the clones was an older, but the real Fontaine. The original Fontaine says that he is helping to achieve peace by whitewashing black people. I'll dive deeper into this in a bit. Anyway, Fontaine doesn't like the plan and uses the trigger words on Chester to kill the real Fontaine. Slick and Yo-Yo both work together to kill Nixon. The news gets wind of it and the whole conspiracy gets busted wide open. Slick, Yo-Yo, and Fontaine decided to leave the Glen together to go to Memphis. The movie ends in Los Angeles, California with another clone of Fontaine, Tyrone, baffled at the events of the Glen that someone looks exactly like him. They cloned Tyrone was a good balance of sci-fi, mystery, and comedy. It did feel like a blaxploitation movie of sorts. I haven't seen one in a while since The Harder They Fall, which is also on Netflix. This movie brought a lot of questions like, if you clone a human being, do you still consider them human? I feel like this can also cause a lot of psychological trauma on finding out that everything you know was a lie. Where do you go from there? Then to find out that you're not the original clone that we were following from the beginning of the movie, because the Fontaine we saw in the beginning died. Now, how he managed to escape the underground lab, we will never know. It was revealed that there were more experiments like the Glen all over the country, given what we saw at the end of the movie. How many Fontaine clones were made? Are there drug dealers like Tyrone? Could it be a lawyer, athlete, doctor, or a cop? There's just so much to unpack here, as the experiments could be different in different parts of the country. There are other experiments being conducted besides the clones. The fried chicken for one.
The chicken!
The fried chicken scene served as a mind control substance being administered to the clones, but Yo-Yo not being a clone was affected as well. But I'll get into her in a bit. The fried chicken could make us ignorant to the problems that's going around the Glen. The perms used in the hair salon show the effects of a person complaining about their job, but once the chemicals from the perm hit, the person didn't care and accepted it. Or to better translate, it is what it is. In that church scene, it kind of makes religion in general questionable. Nah, I ain't touching that one. Moving on. Now this one's a no-brainer. The music affects the mood of the people of the Glen also. We first saw it when the three were driving to the trap house.
You're sleepy as hell. All right.
Then again, the lab so where we see two men fight and then hug thanks to the change of the music. Kind of like Knuck a Few Bucks song. Everyone, and I mean everyone, wants to fight. In the strip club, whatever song that was, which I won't play for copyright reasons, basically send out the signal commands to the clones to chase the three main characters. That is a pretty scary thought to have. You could be dancing, shaking your ass off and shit until a certain song comes on to command you to go and murder someone. So now that the secret is wide open, what will happen now? What would the government do? How would they cover it up? Hundreds of fresh clones and a self-aware community. I can probably guarantee that they will clean it all up and call it a hoax. Then they'll probably catch up with the three that left for Memphis by killing them. The original Fontaine motivation was from the racially motivated killing of his younger brother many years ago.
Shot. Violently. Right here. Between interior ribs 5 and 6. Missed the heart. Pierced the lungs.
Our Fontaine had the same memories, but one part of his brother's death was left out.
Took him 15 minutes to die. Arrived at the morgue. I just stood over him for a long time. I knew it was him. They couldn't be bothered to clean all the blood. And by that time, it had dried up. Crusted black. So I found a rag, and I cleaned it myself.
The original Fontaine's endgame was to have all black people turn into white people because to achieve true peace in America, we'd rather be assimilated than annihilated.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Who in the hell left the gate open?
Stupid motherfuckers. They got to be the stupidest motherfuckers.
The fuck?
This plan was so convoluted, it took me a while to understand what he meant by that. You didn't think that once the experiments were complete, the government wouldn't get rid of you? However, in a twisted way, he wanted for what happened to his brother to never happen again to any black person. Couldn't he have done that another way than cloning people, mind control, and assimilation? You could have, I don't know, used your research to reinforce future generation of black kids so they can be bulletproof to police fire? Nah, that could cause larger problems. The original Fontaine made his end through 2 of his clones. Maybe his plan died with him, or not. I also don't think that the real Fontaine is dead. It could have been another clone in his place once the neighborhood find out about the labs underground. But you're probably going to state that, oh, he said that he was not the clone, he was the original. But you don't think that he would have lied just to throw off suspicion? If the original Fontaine was smart, he would have made the clone without any trick of words to control him to make things legit as possible. I have a feeling that he's still out there somewhere, because there is no way in hell that he would have been killed off that easily. He could have stopped Chester in his tracks right before our Fontaine gave the order. But either way, it's a scary thought that the original Fontaine could have gotten away, but this is heavy speculation on my part. You could tell that Nixon was a racist asshole that enjoyed the idea of the eradication and the control of black people. He loved being in control. He wasn't introduced till halfway through the movie, so we didn't learn much about him, but odds are he could have a clone somewhere. Yo-Yo is smarter than she looks. She was the most proactive, and if she wasn't kidnapped, then it wouldn't motivate the others to help expose the lab to the world. She had got most of her detective skills from Nancy Drew. She didn't have a clone because she was told by Nixon that she was just a hoe and they are a dime a dozen. Yo-Yo is smart, like I said, using her book smarts and whole ways to find out what was going on with the labs. If she would have left for Memphis before she stumbled upon the lab, Fontaine and Slick would have just been looking crazy throughout the neighborhood before they would have ended up dead and replaced like nothing happened. It was implied that there was something going on other than business with Yo-Yo and Slick, but with them leaving together before asking Fontaine to go with them, supporting that there is something between them. Slick at first wanted nothing to do with the conspiracy by voicing it many times. But I have a theory on that also. If there's a person that's talking about conspiracies and go down that rabbit hole and could possibly be speaking the truth, could trigger some words prompting the other person that's listening to dismiss it and change the subject altogether, and it usually works. Tell me that has not happened to you before. Anyway, when it was revealed that Slick was a clone, there was one question that got me vexed. Is there an original Slick? And if so, where is he? Judging by Slick's personality, I can guarantee you that the original is far worse than its clone. Hopefully, they could be explored if there's a sequel, if we ever get one. The Fontaine we were rooting for this entire time is only a few days old. With being a drug dealer, he thought this entire time that he was doing it for survival. However, he was genetically engineered with the purpose of being a drug dealer and tearing down the community. That was his predetermined destiny set by the original Fontaine. Now that he's free, somewhat, he can experience life like he wanted to. So going back to the scene where his Fontaine found out that his mother was recorded the entire time, I wonder what would happen if he would have just went in that room beforehand and find out that he was a clone. Would they just replace him with another Fontaine or go out their way to clone the original Fontaine's mother to throw off suspicion? I feel that that's the only plot hole that this movie had that bothered me, but it didn't take away from the final reveal of the real Fontaine, what's behind everything, and the title character Tyrone is another clone in Los Angeles, possibly prompting Tyrone to look for answers. But I really do feel bad for Fontaine, and Slick too. I feel that once they get out of the Glen and go to Memphis, I feel that they will be spending the rest of their life having PTSD and fighting against their predetermined destiny for the rest of their lives. Hell, they could possibly go back doing the same shit that they was doing in the Glen. Hopefully, if there's a sequel, we could explore more of that. I think I'm going too deep into this movie because as we learn, you can hide the truth in plain sight and mask it as entertainment. Hell, I'm paranoid right now. As I've seen this movie and told others about it, my gas company, Atlanta Gas and Light, wants to come out to the neighborhood and do some work. Probably putting surveillance devices to watch me, but I digress. Overall, I enjoyed this movie. I would highly recommend on watching. The acting, the comedy, the music, everything was on point and it kept you engaged. There was never a dull moment. This was one movie you could watch over and over again and you could continue to question what is the government doing behind closed doors and how far they would go to keep it a secret. It's something to think about. That's all for today. If there's a movie, comic book, TV show, anime you want me to take a look at and review, let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you all next time.